We all long for love. It is a core human need to feel connected, to feel seen, cherished, and chosen. To know deep in our bones we matter to someone else. But so often in our reaching for love, we chase that love outside ourselves while quietly abandoning the one relationship that underpins them all, the relationship with our own heart. When we neglect our inner relationship with ourselves, it shows. Sometimes it's subtle, but the patterns are there. We accept less than we are worthy of. We overgive, hoping someone else will fill the empty places inside us. We overextend ourselves, trying to prove we are lovable. We bend to please or quietly retreat. Or we build walls so high that even those who want to love us can't get through. The truth is, every relationship and connection we have is shaped, whether we realize it or not, by the one we hold with ourselves. Our outer relationships can only go as deep as the inner one we've cultivated, and it's time to take accountability for our part in each of them. This means we have work to do, tender and sacred inner work. Imagine your heart as a garden. If you never tend it, if you forget to water, to pull the weeds, to nourish the soil, eventually the flowers wither. And when someone else walks into that garden, what will they see? Not the lush beauty of who you are, but the overgrowth of neglect. Yet when you tend to your inner garden with care, when you choose kindness in the way you speak to yourself, when you honor your own needs, your garden blooms. When you show up for yourself with patience, kindness, and curiosity, your inner landscape changes. The weeds of self-judgment grow fewer. The flowers of self-respect and compassion flourish. Your garden doesn't need to be perfect. It only needs your presence. And when love arrives, whether in friendship, romance, or community, it finds fertile soil to take root. When you tend to your garden, anyone who enters is welcomed by beauty. Self-love is not selfish, it's sacred. It's the foundation of every healthy, soulful relationship. It's the soil from which all authentic connection grows. For many of us, self-abandonment began long before we knew the word. We learned that being good meant being agreeable, that to belong we had to please, that love had to be earned by staying quiet, compliant, or useful. Maybe your caregivers were too busy, too stressed, not around, or too wounded to truly see you. Maybe they taught you without words that love was conditional, that your needs were too much, that your feelings were inconvenient. So you became what was needed. You learned to anticipate everyone else's emotions. You learned to hide your own. This pattern worked once. It kept you safe, connected, accepted. But as an adult, it can leave you overgiving, anxious, and disconnected from your own truth. The irony is that these very strategies of self-sufficiency helpfulness, and high achievement are often praised. You might be admired for being dependable, strong, and selfless. But underneath that praise lives exhaustion. These patterns ask you to abandon your true self, and that is a heavy burden to carry. The healing begins when you realize that what once kept you safe is now keeping you small. You don't have to get rid of those parts of yourself. You can honor them for the role they played. You can thank them for their service and invite them to rest. This is what it means to grow without shame, to evolve without self-rejection. I think of a coaching client who told me she wanted more intimacy with her partner, but she admitted she had stopped listening to her own needs years ago. She had wanted connection, but she had forgotten how to connect with herself. She prided herself on being easygoing, always agreeable, always available. But beneath that mask was a quiet ache, resentment, exhaustion, and a longing to be valued, not just needed. When we began our work together, I did not expect her to change overnight. I asked her to listen and be present with herself. She started by asking herself one simple question: what do I need right now? At first, the answer didn't come easily. Years of tuning herself out and not listening to her needs made this question feel foreign. With a building self-awareness, she began the simple but radical act of listening to herself and honoring her own needs. Something shifted, and she began prioritizing herself. She stood taller. She spoke her truth more often, and her resentment softened. And in response, her partner leaned in with more respect and more tenderness. By loving herself first, she invited love to meet her in a new way. When you show up differently, the relationship must change. The equation of the interaction itself transforms. This is the power of self-love. It recalibrates the energy of every connection in your life. Your inner tone sets the tone for your outer relationships. If your self-talk is harsh, it's hard to believe someone else's love is genuine. You might deflect compliments, minimize your needs, or dismiss affection. But if you begin to meet yourself with tenderness, if you speak to yourself like someone worth loving, your nervous system learns safety. When you treat yourself with respect, you raise the standards for how others show up for you. Your body begins to trust love again. That's when your relationships start to feel different, less like performance and more like presence. So how do we begin? Self-love doesn't have to look like bubble baths and spa days, though those can be lovely. At its core, it's about presence. It's about being with yourself the way you would with someone you love deeply. When you make a mistake, instead of piling on criticism, can you offer yourself compassion? When you feel tired, can you honor your need for rest instead of pushing through? When you look in the mirror, can you choose to see your own radiance instead of your flaws? When being asked to do something for someone else, can you pause and connect with your own inner wisdom to seek your truth? Self-love isn't built through grand gestures. It's cultivated in the small, ordinary moments where you choose to stay on your own side. It's the breath you take before saying yes out of guilt. It's the compassion you offer when you fall short. It's the courage to rest without apology. It's the boundary you uphold, not to push people away, but to keep yourself rooted. Each act is a promise, and with every kept promise, you build self-trust, the foundation of every lasting relationship. Here's a gentle place to begin. Each morning, make one small promise to yourself. It could be, I will pause before I agree. Or, I will speak kindly to myself when I make a mistake. Or, I will take 10 minutes today to breathe and check in with my heart. Then, and this is the important part, keep that promise. Not to prove your worth, but to honor it. When you build trust with yourself, your outer world begins to reflect that trust back to you. You start attracting connections that feel steadier, kinder, and more aligned. Not because you've become someone new, but because you've remembered who you are beneath the noise. Before the day carries you away, take a quiet moment for yourself. Ask softly, what does self-love look like today? Maybe it looks like rest, maybe honesty, maybe saying no, maybe saying yes to what truly nourishes you. Listen closely. Love will tell you how it wants to move through you, if you're willing to pause long enough to hear it. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to join me for this guided meditation, Attracting Love by Strengthening the Relationship with Self. It's a sacred space to slow down, to return to your inner garden, and to reconnect with the love that has always been yours. Because when you nurture your own heart, you stop searching for others to fill what you've already learned to tend. And from that fullness, every relationship blooms more truthfully, more gently, more beautifully. May you tend to your own heart with care. May you water your inner garden with compassion. And may the love you give yourself ripple outward, shaping every relationship into something more soulful, more authentic, more true. I leave you with much love and gratitude.